today for ISO 14001 and ISO 45001. The ISO 14001 is meant for environmental management systems. EMS, environmental management systems. ISO 14001. Whereas ISO 45001, occupational health and safety management systems, OHS. EMS, OHS. So this ISO 45000 is specially meant for occupational health and safety management systems. When this ISO 14001 is meant for environmental management systems. So when you know the differences between these two standards, you can easily enhance your knowledge by means of implementing these standards. When you see most of the companies, they are in integrated management systems, IMS. The integrated management systems is normally integration of three standards, that is ISO 9001, ISO 14001 and ISO 45001. So these three standards normally they integrated and form an IMS. But here we want to know the ISO 14001, ISO 45001 differences. When you know the differences and similarities, you can say differences also there, similarities also there. When you know the similarities and differences, that time only you can easily implement the standards. Being a safety officer, HSE officers, HSE engineers, HSE managers, EHS professionals, sustainability professors, and all kind of people, they easily know these standards. When you know them only, you can audit. When you audit time, you must know what is what, how we can improve, how we can get the certifications, how we can improve the environmental management systems, how we can improve the occupational health and safety management systems. When you integrate, what are the benefits you have? And also, when these standards in place, how you check? Before audit, how you make sure all these standards are properly in place. So that's why this session is specially meant for the ISO 14001 and ISO 45001. Here we see, first we can compare the hazards. Hazards. Here, occupational health and safety management system hazards. Here the environmental management systems hazards. When you see air, water, soil, pollution is a hazard here. For what? For ISO 14001. Then what about the hazards in occupational health and safety management systems? Slip, trip, falls is a hazard for ISO 45001. And then electrical shock is a hazard. Fire explosion is a hazard. Exposure to the dusty chemicals is a hazard. And then and in relation to the accident, equipment in relation to the accidents, equipment in relation to the accident is a hazard. These are hazard for the ISO 45001. What about the environmental management systems? Air is a hazard, air, water, soil, pollution is a hazard. Then excessive waste generation is a hazard. And also high energy consumption is a hazard. Natural resources are energy consumption, water, fuel, electricity. These all when you are consuming more paper, when you are consuming more in the industry, it's a hazard. Then how in case of what? Noise pollution is a hazard. Okay. these hazards are there when you are in the industry. As per ISO 14001, based on these hazards, you have to make up procedures and you have to contain these all the things. When you have a proper answer for this pollution, for this hazards, then you don't have any worry for the auditing. So normally, this how you are managing these hazards, what procedure you have, what work instruction you have, these all things auditor will ask. When you have a non-conformity for all this, then there is a NCR. But you don't have any NCR non-conformity, then you can easily pass the audit. So there should be a proper way of analyzing the air pollution, water pollution, soil pollution, even land pollution. So these all the hazards must be properly analyzed, researched, and in case of abnormalities are there, you have to take measures. That should be documented. There should be a monitoring seat in that. This should be properly monitored. Then what about the excessive waste generation? So how you are containing the waste in the industry? As per the environmental management system, you can follow 5R: recycle, reuse, repurpose, and then we can say repurpose, reuse, recycle, we can say another part is recollect, and then finally repurpose. So these are the things you can use it. So the waste generation, here the excessive waste generation is a problem, that is a hazard. And then here noise pollution, you have to address the noise pollution, and also these all the things you have to address as per the hazard for the ISO 14001. Then what about the ISO 45000? Trip faults, electrical shock, then electricity safety, electrical safety, then working at height safety, fire, then fire management safety, then exposure to the chemicals, so means chemical safety, then equipment safety. So these all must have the procedures, that there must be a risk assessment. Based on that risk assessment, you have some control measures. In that control measures, you can implement. So that things auditor will check it. The same thing here also. These hazards, environmental management systems, they will check waste, how you are disposing the waste, how you are collecting, storing, disposing the waste. That will be monitored and audited by the auditors. Then how you can improve these standards? So you have to see ISO 14001 and ISO 45000 is very much important. Then root cause, here root cause. So for ISO 14001, what will be the root cause? ISO 45000, what will be the root cause? Here improper waste disposal is a root cause, and then lack of pollution control equipment is a root cause. Overuse of natural resources is a root cause. Non-compliance to the environmental law, non-compliance and non-compliance of the environmental rules and regulations of the national and international rules and regulations. See, if they are not non-complying, it will be the root cause. So normally these kind of root causes will come. Then what about the root cause of the occupational health and safety? Unsafe work practices is a root cause of this one. Then you can say lack of PPEs. If PPE is not there, then there is a failure of ISO 14001. Then poor management, poor segregation, we can say. Then independent guarding, inadequate guarding and poor training. The poor training and safety meetings also a root cause, and inadequate guarding or inadequate whatever supply of PPEs, equipments, it's all called the root cause. So here we can see what is ISO 14001, what is ISO 45001, what are the hazards: air, water pollutions, excessive waste generations, high water consumption, natural water consumptions, and then noise pollution. Here the hazards, trip falls are the hazards, and then fire, explosion is a hazard. Then what will be the root cause? Improper waste disposal, lack of pollution control, and then overuse of natural resources, non-compliance to the environmental law. These are ISO 14001 root causes. What about the ISO 45000 root causes? Unsafe activities like practices, departmental practices, lack of PPEs, and poor training, and inadequate equipment or whatever meetings. So these all comes for the ISO 45001. So what are the precautions we can take for ISO 14001 and ISO 45001? Let's see one by one how. Then precautions, we can have the proper way of install the pollution control equipment for ISO 14001. Install the pollution control equipments like scrubbers and chimneys. These all we can have precautions. So how we need to get ISO 14001 certificate means we have to get these precautionary measures, and then waste separations and waste removal through the approved bodies. Then what about the precautions for the occupational health and safety 14001? You have to have the proper way of emergency. In case of emergency, what will be the procedure for these all the problems? So that elaborate the 45001, and use of PPEs and trainings, proper way of safety trainings. So this is the ISO 14001, ISO 45001 hazards, root causes, and finally the precautions. These are the things you must know it to get any kind of certification. Whether internal audit or external audit, you must know all these things before proceeding for any certifications. This knowledge only enhance your overall certification improvement, certificate knowledge. You have to know what kind of things. Here you see, ISO 14001 is for environmental management systems. Then ISO 45001 is occupational health and safety management systems. When you going for an industry, then what are the things you must know it? Being a ISO 14001, you have to look into air pollution, water pollution, soil pollution. These things, how they are monitoring, how they are containing, what are the control measures they have, what are the reports they have, you have to monitor. Then you must know it, how they are controlling the waste generation, excessive waste. There are plastic waste is there, e-waste is there, and then domestic waste is there, and industrial waste. Each waste, liquid waste, solid waste, how they are containing, how they are segregating, how they are labeling, how they are disposing. This should be witnessed. Each and everything you must have a record. That part you must know it. Being an auditor, these are the things they will check it. Then high energy consumption, water, fuel, paper, electricity, how they are consuming, whether there is a conservation of energy is there or not. As per ISO 14001, this also needs to be monitored. There should be a proper way of records. When you have a proper way of record, then only you can check it. Otherwise, you cannot give these applications. It's a NCR, non-conformity. If the company is not monitoring the electricity bill every month there should be a downtrend of electricity, downtrend of water, downtrend of fuel. That is the environmental management system's assurity. You have to monitor and control whether all the fuel, natural resources you are controlling or not. That is the question for the ISO 14001. So then noise pollution. In case of noise pollution, what are the remedial action you have taken? That will be the big question. Whether DB monitored. If the company following the as per standards, your noise is within the limits. 85 decibel is the industrial limit. It's within the limit or excessive limit. The excessive limit means non-conformity. That you must know it. So then these are the hazards. Then what about ISO 45001? ISO 45001 talks about hazard trips, falls. You must have a proper PPE. PPE means helmet, gloves, mask, goggles, the we can say eye goggles or eye glasses, then ear plug or ear muff, then waist. What can say? You can have the luminance or illuminated coat or vest and safety boot. So these are the things must be there for protection. And also in case of people working in the height, you must have a slip safety belt when they are working in the up. So these things properly managed. And in case electrical shock, what will be the procedure? In case of persons entering into the electrical room, what will be the procedures? And fire and explosion means you must have a fire extinguishers, first aid, and then there should be emergency procedures, emergency preparedness and response plan and procedures, evacuation map, assembly points, exits, all must be there. And also the equipment. So how they are going to do all equipment relations also hazard. How they are going to contain the cranes, forklifts. What are the safety procedures for the forklifts? What are the safety procedures for the crane? And then bulldozers. All kind of grinding equipment, welding equipment, cutting equipment, all the equipment, what are the safe procedures, working sections, how they are monitoring, how they are recording, what kind of safety training they have given. These are checked by the ISO 45000 auditors. It's a very, very important one for ISO 45001 occupational health and safety part. We are just seeing the hazards. But within the hazards, these many matters are there. You must know it, how the people's, how the people's normally describing all these things. ISO 14001 is elaborated one, environmental management systems. Most of the companies, they have a ISO 14001 and ISO 45001. This one, these two standards, oil and gas, construction industries, all the major industries, they have it. Then, root causes. For 14,001, what will be the root cause? For 45,001, what will be the root cause? As we discussed, the lack of pollution control equipment is a root cause. And then we can get excessive use of natural resources and then non-compliance to the environmental law. If as per ISO 14001, you have to comply the environmental rules and regulations. The same thing here. You have to lack of PPE is a root cause, and training, inadequate training and inadequate equipment also root cause. Then precautions, you have to install pollution control equipments and waste should be segregated, disposed in the proper manner. For ISO 45001, what will be the precautions? The precautions must be used PPEs and proper way of giving the safety trainings. So these all comes under the ISO 45001. Here we see so ISO 14001 plus ISO 45,001. Here it's required environmental monitoring. Here it's required safety risk assessments, job safety analysis. Here, environmental monitoring and EIA required, environmental impact assessment required. Environmental impact assessment required. Here, risk assessment required. Risk assessment, HERA, we can say HERA. So, ISO 14001, you have to have the environmental impact assessments. Here, the safety risk assessments. Here, environmental aspect and impact. Here, hazard, risk, likelihood, probability. Here. So, EIA, HERA is the difference between the ISO 14001, ISO 45001. Here, environmental compliance or law. Here, occupational rules and regulations, national, internationals or OSHA. This one, environmental EPA laws or world environmental laws. So, ISO 14000 is for environmental, ISO 45000 about the occupational health and safety. Here the conservation of environmental resources. What are the environmental resources? Water, fuel, electricity. Then here the conservation of or protection of, we can say protection of human health. Protection of human health. Then here what we have, ISO 14000 talks about the waste management. Here ISO 45000 talks about the emergency management. emergency management. So here ISO 14001 is talks about the waste disposable. Waste management, here the emergency management. Then ISO 14001 is talks about the protection of environment, air, water, land. Here the protection of human beings or employees. So protection of environment, protection of employees or human beings. Here waste management, here emergency management, here EIA, here HIRA, risk assessments. Here rules and regulations are EPA, Environmental Protection Authority or Pollution Control Boards or environmental ministries. Here occupational rules and regulations of country, national, international, and those are rules and regulations. Here we can say conservation of energy resources. Here the protection of employees. So these are the major areas of concern about the ISO 14001 and ISO 45001. Then here the procedures. For ISO 14001, ISO 45001, here environmental management programs required. Here occupational health management program required. Here emergency evacuation, emergency preparedness and evacuation procedures and plan. Here environmental emergencies, procedures and plan. So how the ISO 14001 and ISO 45001, here the emergency preparedness and evacuation plan. Here environmental management program and also environmental emergency management. These differences you must know. So totally when you are talking about the ISO 14001, it's totally environmental management systems. Then ISO 45001 is for totally occupational health and safety. Here we are totally talking about the environment. Here we are talking about the employees' health and safe working environment. Safe working environment. So ISO 14000 is for totally environmental management. Here ISO 45001 is employees' health and safe working environment to provide them. So that is the difference between these two. Make sure you have this kind of awareness. When you are auditing or someone come and audit you, or when you are auditing internally, these information very much helpful for ISO 14001 and ISO 45001. There must be a proper differences, you must know it. What is what? How you can audit. If someone not properly dispose the environmental waste, then it's a non-conformity. When someone not providing the PPE, it's a non-conformity. This PPE involves ISO 45001. Then the environment rule, oil, waste, It's all comes under the 14,001. You must have these differences. So this is the simple brief about the differences between the ISO 14001, ISO 45001. If you have any queries, anything, you just comment us. We'll, any questions, anything related to these ISO 14001 and ISO 45001, I am very glad to answer for your queries and your answers. If you like all these training sessions, live sessions, subscribe the channel, like and share it, and you just keep on watching. Thanks for watching. Thank you very much.